Well, Lindsay sent me the script. I loved the script. I loved it because I felt it was, in many ways, a parallel to my own experience. You know, I'm one of three brothers too, and my parents were fairly ordinary living, sweet people who just devoted themselves to their family, and who both could have been. Actually, my father could have been a considerable cellist, and my mother a considerable pianist. I mean, I've no doubt about that. But they didn't have either the opportunity or the final little bit of drive to make them go and do it. So they lived, you know, an average life and bringing up three sons. And although the social parallels aren't the same, the fundamentals are the same. And I just loved that family that David Story had written, possibly with a lot of his own experience in it, I suspect. The wife who always wants to live a grander life, a more refined life, a more well-mannered, courtly life, and who's actually living in a house of men, who are having to struggle, one emotionally, neurotically, one professionally, and one as a kind of wild misfit, Andrew, this extrovert character who seems to dominate this play. And the father, who's a coal miner, a sort of man of huge heart and huge, big sort of compassionate sort of nature. A wonderful family setup, and utterly real, utterly truthful, harrowing in its honesty, and with great flights of fancy and humour, particularly from Andrew. And Lindsay Anderson offered me to play, and I think he offered me the younger son, which Brian Cox played. And I said, well, you know, I think I've not actually been there, but I want to do something much more different. He said, well, choose. Which one of those brothers do you want to play? So I said, well, I'll choose. So I chose Andrew. And then, of course, having chosen a part, you then get rather scared to play it because you've asked for it. So you've got to prove yourself, you know. But Lindsay's genius as a director was quite... I would rehearse the first scene of this, with a scene with his mother, where he's sort of teasing his mother, and very sort of mad scene, really, sort of. And I would rehearse it, and Lindsay would say, yes, fine, next scene. And I got increasingly more uncomfortable. And one day I just said, it's not fine. He said, oh, really? What's wrong with it? I said, well, it's not right. It's not free. It's not... I'm not... He said, no, it's perfectly all right. What are you worried about? This is great direction, you see. So I said, oh, good. Well, I began to think, well, obviously there's nothing wrong with it, you know. So I then got quite free with it. And then he started to direct it. He waited until I felt at ease before he started to direct it. If only that were always true. It's sort of common sense in a way, but it takes I suppose you've got to be fairly sensitive to understand that you'll get nowhere with an actor unless he's at ease. And he's there because he wants to be, not because he has to be drilled into something. He's there because he wants to be there. You're not made to do this job, you choose it. Anyway, Lindsay was terrific. And David's writing was just, he has a way just to touch the rawness of your soul. You know, you said you found the play very moving, and it is very moving. and because it suddenly will catch you unawares on a really raw spot, and it's and move you. But he has it's just, you can't say. I don't think David and Simon could be more different in their way of writing. I mean, but David certainly can make you laugh as well. I mean, there's some wonderful humour in Celebration, some wonderful sort of relationship humour, you know, and he's got a sort of dark, quiet sense of humour which gets you as well. I really fell in love with that play because I identified with it so much from my own family experience, I think. Just being one, there was my mother, there was a house of men, you know. And in fact, that's one line from the father suddenly says to his sons, now, behave yourselves, you know. One woman in a house of men. Not easy for her. The play is a very strong play because I think it made us feel like a family. And we never quite lost that. And when we came to the film, we still had that. Even 5 years later, we still had that sense of being able to move in together at once as a family of 5. And the filming of that was very exciting because Lindsay was a very experienced filmmaker. And he'd spent his life in film. He was a disciple of John Ford. It was, you know, he'd done wonderful things before that. So he really turned that play with its marvelous raw realism into a wonderful piece of cinema. It's one of those great moments that happen, I suppose, in life for everybody where something more powerful than the thing you think is motivating you is actually working on you. Some hidden love for her, his mother, some awareness of her fragility, some, you know, what he wants to say, what he wants to do is suddenly shriveled by something, a more powerful feeling which suddenly comes up in you, and you realize you can't actually say that because the damage would be too great. And the damage to yourself might be too great. Never mind what you might do to her, in this case, her. I'm thrilled and I'm really find it upsetting that so much fine work that people do is not recorded, and that it isn't actually mandatory for every successful production, let's say, at the RSC or the National should be filmed. I mean, but seriously filmed, not just recorded from the back of the upper gallery. And I think we've lost in the times when we've had the power to film them and the ability to film them properly, but it's not been done. And I think it's a terrible thing.
But it's good.
But it's good. I mean, the American Film Theatre has done that for how many are there? 14 for 14 pieces of theatre work has done that, and it's great that they're having another life now.